You wrote a book called Power Foods for the Brain. And tell us a little bit about that because you talk about Alzheimer's and the connection between diet and Alzheimer's, which is something that I think most people are not talking about.
No.
Well, that's why I wrote this. I have to tell you, when my grandpa started to repeat stories, and then he couldn't recognize other people anymore, and then it got to the point where he just sat in the corner of the nursing home year after year after year, not knowing anybody or anything that ever mattered to him. And then my father discovered the same thing was happening to him. And he was terrified, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. And when he died, his heart stopped beating, but his life had ended for all intents and purposes 4 or 5 years before. If you make a list of all the things you don't want to have happen to you, Alzheimer's is like number one. And researchers in Chicago tackled this, and other research teams have tackled this, looking at foods that people eat who don't get Alzheimer's. And they found several things. We've been talking about saturated fat that's bad for your heart. People who tend to avoid that cut their risk of Alzheimer's dramatically. The trans fats that are in a lot of junk foods, if people who avoid those do well. People who have vitamin E rich foods, here's your almonds again, tend to be protected. People who tend to eat green vegetables like spinach or the cruciferous vegetables, for them, according to a research study called the Memory and Aging Project, what they found was that the aging of the brain was delayed by 11 years. So anyway, each one of these is important, but you put them all together, and if you avoid the bad things, and you bring in the good things and lace up your sneakers, that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Because if you exercise and you oxygenate the brain and get the crud out, I honestly think that while we might not end Alzheimer's disease completely, I think we can greatly delay or eliminate probably 80% of it if we put all these things to work. And now is the time to make this happen. It is not all age and genetics. It relates to things that we can control.
And it's, I don't want to oversimplify it, but what I'm hearing is, has a big part to do with reversing some diseases simply by increasing blood flow and allowing your endothelial cells to run freely and healthfully. That is helpful for an athlete to produce a premium performance. It's all helpful for guys who are having erectile dysfunction. They don't have great blood flow, and so they take Viagra, which increases blood flow. But we've seen so many changes when guys switch over to a plant-based diet. And it sounds to me like if we don't have good blood flow to our brain, well, eventually parts of it would die off, go to sleep. What happens to the brain if we don't get that oxygenation and that blood flow?
Right. The cells actually die. Okay. If you get this early, there's a preliminary condition called mild cognitive impairment. And you're still yourself. Let's say you're up in years. You're still yourself. You might be driving. You might manage your checkbook. But you discover you cannot remember especially names and words. Like, what was the name of that actor in that movie? I know it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
And this will happen to all of us. If you didn't sleep well last night, this will happen.
Okay, phew. I was like, oh no, that happens to me all the time.
It happens to everybody. But if it's every day, throughout the day, that's mild cognitive impairment. If that person says, I'm terrified, I know where this is going, you take that person, you change their diet, you lace up their sneakers, you get them doing a brisk walk 3 times a week. What research studies have shown is the hippocampus of the brain, that's the seat of memory, it actually has been shrinking year by year. It starts to expand. It goes back toward where it was. People do much better on paper and pencil tests as a result of getting that regular exercise, which oxygenates the brain, and eating the healthful foods. What if you could get into your bloodstream after a person has a cheese sandwich? The particles of saturated fat make the blood viscous. It's thick. It doesn't flow well. You don't oxygenate well. Get that out of your diet so that your blood can flow more like water, less like grease. And suddenly, not only your muscles oxygenate, so you got better athletic endurance and better recovery, but also your brain is getting oxygenated. So you don't want that junk in your bloodstream because it goes to your brain.
But I'm hearing that you're advocating for a low-fat diet, but I understand. Doctors, a lot of people go, I have to take even my mom actually saw my mom last week. And she said, we were in the store and she said, I'm going to buy my fish oil now. And I said, I'm going over here, Mom. You sure there's algae? You know, the fish eat algae. You don't need to eat fish to get whatever the DHA and things like that.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this push for fish oil for our brain, not only from a plant-based point of view, but also the fats. I'm hearing you say that maybe no fats are good, but on the other hand, isn't DHA, aren't there good fats for our brain?
Yeah, okay, very important. You do need traces of fats in your diet, and you need, their technical terms are alpha-linolenic acid and linoleic acid. This will not be on the test, but they're in plant foods, and you need them, and your body will take the alpha-linolenic acid and it will expand, it will lengthen the molecule to make DHA, and your brain needs the DHA. Now, for a lot of folks, they're eating all kinds of other fat. And those other fats occupy the enzymes that were going to lengthen the molecule, so they don't get much DHA. So they go to the store and they eat fish oil, and the fish oil does have some DHA in it as well as lots of other fats in it. But what you said, Alexander, is exactly right, that right next to the fish oil capsules are the vegan DHA, which is sourced from algae. It's cleaner, it doesn't make you smell. Now, the question is whether that helps or not, whether anybody needs it or not. With regard to fish oil, frankly, the research hasn't been supportive of fish oil. It started out with heart disease, and fish oil really doesn't do much of anything for heart disease at all, probably doesn't reduce stroke. And the question is, would it do something for the brain? And I don't really know. But my thought is, if you want to take DHA, by all means take the botanical version. It's the cleanest, purest one you're ever going to get. And secondly, if you wish to, you can test. You go online and you can do a DHA blood test. They'll send you a little card. You prick your finger and you put a dot of blood on the card. You mail it in, and a week or so later they'll send you your results. And if you're in the good range, you leave it alone. If you're low, you can take DHA if you wish to. We don't yet know if any of that part will really help, but that's kind of where the science is. And some people are supplementing for that reason, and it may well be okay for them.
Good information. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to call my
Sure.
mom after this.
Yes, and you'll have to listen to this too.
Yeah. And by the way, these are all online. You don't have to go to the store for them. If you go online and you Google, vegan DHA, there's like a million people who are making this now because people think, they don't want the fish because of the smell, or they don't want it because it's environmental. Let's face it, it's not sustainable. Or they think, leave the poor fish alone. Whatever their motivation is, people are going toward plants, and there's every reason to do that.